Did you know there's this much distance between heaven and hell? This much distance. Let me tell you a story to make that idea a little bit clearer about how they can be so close. There's a monk who's very devoted to God. And in his devotion, he came across a conflict. He came across a conflict that really bothered him. And that, on the one hand, he thought God was love. And on the other hand, there's this concept of hell where people suffer for the rest of their existence. And he thought, this can't be God. So he prayed to God and he said, please show me what is the difference between heaven and hell. And that night in his dreams, he found himself standing next to God in front of this door. And the door opened. And in that room were hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of tables. Every table had its own pot of stew upon it. And it smelled very delicious. But he noticed right away that something was out of line. All the people were really emaciated. They all had these really long spoons. And it was easy enough to dip into the pot and to get food. But the spoons were so long, they couldn't feed themselves because they couldn't reach it because it was so long. So God said, this is hell. And he found himself in front of another door. The door opened. It seemed to be almost an exact replica of the other room, except that in this room, people still had the long spoons where they couldn't reach their mouth, but they were all well fed. They were all happy and joyous. And God said, this is heaven. And the monk said, I don't understand. I can't understand what you're telling me. And God said, this is easy. In this room, people are happy to feed each other. They're not in ego. They're in a place of love, and they feed each other. They take care of each other. In the other room, hell, people can only think about themselves. Okay? So the difference between heaven and hell isn't so much the place, it's your reaction to it. Both reactions were completely different. In one room, the person would feed each other, even though they had the same long spoons that they couldn't reach their mouth with. They would just feed each other instead. Okay, so when you realize heaven and hell are not that far apart, it's us that creates them. Now, a lot of people believe, or it's generally believed, that war is human nature. Okay, violence is human nature, and so we're always going to see that. But I have some problems with that now, believing that. For instance, if we really were warlike, if that were our true nature, wouldn't we be able to tolerate war better? Wouldn't we survive it better? Wouldn't it not reduce our livability afterwards? Look how many soldiers come back with PTSD. Some of them weren't even in action. They actually just saw a part of the war and they got PTSD. When a soldier comes back and all they have is these memories playing over and over in their mind, that's not surviving war. Evolution would make sure that we lived up to what our human nature was if it was war. So, what is human nature then? You can tell what human nature is because it happens during catastrophes. Katrina, tsunamis, earthquakes. People from all over the world come. They want to help out. They want to make a difference. They want to drop whatever they're doing to go and help people. Now, the thing is, if that weren't our human nature, it wouldn't be so compelling to go and help these people we don't even know. But we do. We're willing to do that because we get knocked out of our ego long enough where we see things, we react to things a little differently, and then we can make a difference. So if we let ourselves be moved just a little distance, all of us can make a difference in the world. Now, I'm writing about peace. That's what I want to get across to the world, because our human nature isn't war. I totally reject that whole idea that it's about war or violence or greed. That's not our human nature. That's our ego nature. It's our human nature that wants us to help each other. It's our human nature that creates charities to help people we can't help individually. It's our human nature that really wants to make a difference. So I tell you, what are you going to do? I ask you, what are you going to do to create peace? Can you create it in your own life?